NBS Frontline. The Balalo issue has been perhaps one of the most complex puzzles for the NRM and for President Museveni in modern history, with its multiple orders and ever-shifting deadlines as those that wield power drag their feet.
The issue of Balalo well, to come down to discuss with the Acholi people, to find better terms and ways in which they can amicably accommodate the Balalo people, then they may as well find it very challenging.
At the height of the standoff between the Acholi and Balalo settlers, President Yoweri Museveni issued the explicit Executive Order No. 3 in May 2023, forbidding Balalo from settling in northern Uganda, citing indiscipline.
The president is coming. I expect him to listen very well what the landowners are saying, not politicians what they are saying.
As predicted by the skeptics, the order was deferred in July, and it was the third time in a row as the president was eating his orders, leaving the question to fester as it had for the decades.
There are some political brokers, power brokers, who are much interested in the issue of the land in the Acholi sub-region. Me, I'm seeing beyond the Balalos. It is not only the Balalos. There are people behind the Balalos.
But the Balalo question is not the only one that remains unresolved. Late President Idi Amin Legacy's legacy is equally sticky, attracting mixed reactions about his legacy.
If we say Idi Amin should not be remembered because people are killed during his regime, what are you telling people about yourself?
President Yoweri Museveni disagrees sharply with those nostalgic about the late head of state and made his stand clear in a stinging letter to the Minister of Education.
He didn't work with the parliament, so he also never stormed the parliament. He also never stormed a judiciary.
So that one is true, that Museveni has a parliament, or there is a parliament, which he overruns as and when he wants to do so.
Is it time to discuss the legacy of past leaders and how their memory should shape the future of a country that just made 61 years of independence? This is The Frontline. NBS Frontline.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Frontline on NBS TV. My name is Charles Mwangushampagi. Before I introduce the panel that I have tonight, the controversy of what legacy did Idi Amin Dada leave in the country? Is it worth celebrating, or can we still continue the vilification of Idi Amin? The Amin of his years, he left power in 1979, but still being debated today, and comparisons are emerging. What do those mean to contemporary Uganda? What is the place of other past leaders? And the president's reply, or the president's position on that application to establish an Idi Amin Institute, where he says Amin came to power unconstitutional, and people are asking, did Yoweri Museveni come to power constitutionally? Or which Ugandan president actually came to power through the constitution over the last 61 years that Uganda has been independent? Many questions arise there. The controversy over the Balalo. Are they a tribe? Are they an ethnic community? Who are they? Why are they being chased from settling in a part of the country? Very controversial views there. And an operation launched in Acholi sub-region called Balalo Must Go. The bigger question is, Balalo must go where? How did they end up in northern Uganda? Do they have a right to settle in any part of the country if they are Ugandans? I've had talk about them not being Ugandans, settling in that part of the country, but with government protection. Do they actually have that government protection? And the divided opinion within Acholi sub-region itself over people who support the Balalo being and settling in Acholi, who say we are coexisting peacefully with them, and those who think these are land grabbers roaming the plain lands of northern Uganda, destroying crops of traditional agriculturalists in northern Uganda. But also the controversy, was there a deliberate effort to disenfranchise, if I could use that word, the Acholi, formerly cattle keepers, now with no cattle, having had to endure a 2 decades war in which they were displaced and had to live in camps for internally displaced persons, are now coming back into their lands, now competing where they find themselves competing with other people just walking into those areas. How will that controversy be resolved? President Yoweri Museveni is heading to northern Uganda, actually should be there tomorrow, to discuss. General Salim Saleh has been camped in northern Uganda to try and resolve this controversy. And of course, the hunger for land and more land by different people. And is land in northern Uganda vacant land? Is it without ownership? Who owns it? We'll be discussing some of those and other issues on the front line tonight. I'll begin the introductions of the team that I have, the panel that I have. The Honorable Winnie Kiza missing in action once again, unable to join us on the show. She's a frontliner, but I have 2 frontliners and 2 guests. Let me start at the extreme end. Ofono Opondo, Executive Director at the Uganda Media Center and a frontliner. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening to our viewers.
Major Paula Awich, retired. He's been fairly regular on the front line. Doesn't need a lot of introduction, but he's a lawyer and a practicing advocate, worked with the United Nations, and is an avowed supporter of the National Resistance Movement. Very nice to have you, sir.
Good evening, supporter. I'm a director at the ruling party.
Director?
Supporter sounds an underword. I'm a director of external affairs at the mighty NRM. Not only supporter.
Yes. Direct External Affairs. Very nice to have you. I have from West Nile, Caps Fungaroho Hassan, a former member of parliament. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you very much. I am glad to be with you. I'm Honorable Fungaro Caps Hassan, the PRO of the organizing committee for the remembrance of Idi Amin activities, memorial lecture, Idi Amin Institute, memorial prayers. I'm also the newly elected Deputy President of the FDC in charge of Northern Uganda. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, very nice to have you. And I have from Kira Municipality, from the Forum for Democratic Change, Honorable Ibrahim Semuju Nganda, who's also a frontliner. Very nice to have you, sir.
Yes, Charles, thank you, and good evening to those who are watching and those who are viewing.
Very nice to have you, gentlemen, and apologies that we don't have a lady on the show tonight. Let's start with the executive order issued by the president that has failed implementation, and ask questions of whether it will actually be implemented finally. And I want to start with you, Ofono Opondo. This controversy over Balalo in northern Uganda, particularly in Acholi sub-region, and the demand by some Acholi leaders that Balalo must quit, which the president seems to agree with, and has written an executive order and says they should get out of those regions. My understanding is that the Constitution under Article 29, I think sub-Article 2E, allows for freedom, among others, to Ugandans to settle in any part, to live and settle in any part of the country. What's happening to that?
That is indeed correct, the position of the Constitution. However, I think the president is being driven, if I may use that word, by the sensitive politics in northern Uganda, especially arising out of the 2 decades war, where many people in that area probably believe, or perhaps believe, that they were let down by the government. 20 years of war, horrendous war, displacement, and many people abandoned their land and so on. So I think that sensitivity is what the president is, in my view, addressing his mind to. Not that he's not aware that the Constitution allows any Ugandan to settle wherever they want, as long as they do so through the rightful processes, and they are doing so peacefully. Now, who are the Balalo in this particular context? They are essentially people of the Banyankole cattle keeping strand. Majority of them initially were nomads. You remember we had the issues of Balalo in Teso sub-region, in parts of Bunyoro, in parts of Lango. But the current strand of the Balalo are really big business people, the ones in Acholi sub-region. Because of lack of serious economic activities in the rural areas, there is an abundance of land for grazing large herds of cattle. And so many of the people are relocating. They are finding where can we go and graze land, graze cattle. And they are linking up mainly with actually elites. They could be business, political, or even in the administrative machinery of government. I know, for example, that there are a number of ministers in this government who are not even the original Balalo. I know a minister, for example, from the Greater Bushenyi, who went through another former MP and acquired 2 square miles. 2 square miles is approximately 1,300 acres in Nwoya.
About 1,208 acres.
Yeah, that's approximately.
Approximately 300.
Yes,
Yes, 1,300.
in Nwoya. So we have many people in that category. They are not the original, the traditional Balalo cattle keepers, but these are now business people. They are going there in liaison with actually elites, political, business people, and so on and so forth. And so I think that's what the president is addressing his mind. Now, we have the politics in Acholi. In the current one, you can see that one group is supporting the Balalo. Another group, which perhaps feels cheated, undercut, are accusing them that they are depriving or they are facilitating unfair relationship, business relationship. Where they go, if you read the Honorable Mao's letter or his piece he wrote a few days ago, he says people are being given peanuts, what is called peanuts. Now in Uganda, we all know that land transactions are free buyer, free seller.
Willing buyer, willing seller.
Willing buyer, willing seller. So there's nothing to say peanut.
Now, let me put a quick question.
So I think that's what the president is addressing his mind to. The political sensitivity of the land, particularly where people feel let down.
Why are his decisions, when you put your pen to paper as a president of the republic and issue something you call an executive order, it comes as big as they come?
Yes.
And actually leaders are saying, in 2017, the president issued his first executive order. It wasn't listened to. He repeated in 2021, 2020. He repeated another one in May 2023. And then he's gone back on his word, given extension upon extension. Why is the president not being decisive, number one? And what is that is defeating him?
I think it is the underestimation of the business relationship between and among the people who have entered this relationship. To take an example, if I have acquired one square mile, 640 acres, and I've paid, for example, even if you call it nominal, 200,000 shillings per acre to graze my cows over the next 5 years, and it is written. How would the executive order restore, compensate me, who entered a free business arrangement? So I think it is the failure to understand how big this is. And therefore, and I've said, these are all powerful business people. When you are making policy, you expect that those interests, if they are powerful, they will try to negotiate their way out of a conundrum like this one.
Thank you.
Like I've given you, if you have perhaps two, three, four ministers in that category, you have big business people who have gone there. You don't expect them, just because the president has written an executive order and I have entered in a free arrangement to vacate. You saw the one where there was not such entrenchment, the one in Teso, the one in Lango. People moved out.
Thank you.
Because there was no financial transactions involved.
Thank you. Major Paula, which let me come to you quickly. Many people watching this controversy, and what appears to be unanimity among, a majority of Acholi leaders are united in this. A delegation led by the Chief Justice had a meeting with the President before. They've held meetings with General Salim Saleh, but Acholi sub-region is an area where the NRM has found new love lately. What does this controversy mean to that new love?
I mean, any contradiction that would not augur well with the government or with the party, you know that it would be destructive in our people relationship. And that is why it has to be addressed. I mean, it is not rocket science that once I am your friend and we agree, as you said, we are auguring well, and a contradiction comes between me and you, that tend to erase that well-being. It's bad, and therefore it needs to be addressed. But you will know that, like you had asked earlier, why the orders were stayed. It's because of emerging concerns. And this is not the first time that the president gives a directive and he listens. Even if you took at street vendors, many times you can say we have chased the street vendors, and then many other opinions come up and they want to consult and they will say it on many other issues. And I think that is a virtue than a vice, because if a president can listen, what's wrong with that? Because
does that raise questions about the kind of intelligence, the kind of homework he does or he's given before he issues an executive order like that? Or does it reveal a fairly indecisiveness or maybe a weakness on the part of the president?
It's not lack of decision or indecisiveness, because you remember at the first time when the implementation of that order came up, Brigadier Kanyesige, who was the division commander then, effectively implemented. In fact, Brigadier Kanyesige, my friend, is himself a Muralo, but effectively took up the order until, again, as we are saying, new concerns come up, and the president is not so naive not to listen. And then he will say, okay, if that is what we are saying, let's listen. But not that it was a failure of intelligence. It's just the ability to not appear to be seen to be dictating. It's a virtue of listening and accommodating new concerns. It doesn't mean that if he listens, he will not proceed. He just said, stay it, I want to listen to you. And it is the process which is ongoing. But once it is cleared, it will be effected. So therefore, these contradictions that is coming up is really much being addressed. And you see, the love situation that you are talking about, the government has a wider approach to issues. For example, you will know that...
outside of government, I'm talking about the party. The party has just found new love in northern Uganda. It's the area of NRM's biggest growth as a political party in terms of support, after many years of rejection.
Of course, I use the government because the party is a ruling party in power, because it's the party which marketed its manifesto, and the people voted on the ground of that manifesto, and it formed the government. But even if we limit ourselves to the party, we as a party chairman, the president is very alive to the concerns of everybody. And that is why he consults again and again and again. So that when a final decision is taken, it's not taken in haste, it's taken when everybody is heard. I'm sure you are alive to Article 44 of the Constitution, which provides, one of them is that you must hear the other party, a right to be heard. So since the Baralu themselves, and also those they are with, raise their concern that, look, this is how we see it, this is how the transaction has been. That is the point that the president said. Article 44 said, I must listen to you. Remember, Article 44 only provides 4 things: hearing, for against slavery, torture, and habeas corpus. So under all circumstances, you must listen. And that is the provision the president is saying.
I have read the executive order, and you're a lawyer, and I'm wondering whether it actually stands legal scrutiny, because matters of settlement, matters of land acquisition are matters of law.
Of course, it's lawful, but if you want us to go to that direction, I have always told my friends that laws are not interpreted outside court, but as it stands, the president has the power to issue that executive order.
Is it
but
impossible?
My other land friends would say what they want, but I think that would be debated at the appropriate forum. But he has the power, and he has done it, and we want to see how effective it is.
My question is its enforceability.
The enforceability is very easy. Because the state apparatus is there. I already told you that the first one, Brigadier Kanyesge, was about to finish the job. For us, as a disciplined army, and with sister forces like the police, it takes a very short time for an order of a commander-in-chief to be effected. So the enforceability, as long as it is given to the rightful state apparatus from the commander-in-chief, they said evict them. Like I told you, Brigadier Kanyesge had tried, he had started even using army helicopters. It is easy. So the enforceability would be in doubt if we had a disciplined state, disciplined state apparatus. If the commander-in-chief's orders or instructions are in doubt or doubted. But in this case, it's a simple task waiting for just a signal from the commander-in-chief. So let the commander-in-chief, who is our party chairman, do his consultation.
There is a belief, just before I come to Honorable Kaps and Honorable Semuju, there's a belief that actually the government is hand in glove with this Balalo, that it has given them tacit approval, tacit support. Actually, leaders claim that the Balalo are armed people. They threaten, they have means, they have resources, and that they have a large wave of them moved at a time when the country was under lockdown. That the movement into Acholi largely starts in 2017, grows around 2020, when movement of both persons and animals was restricted.
But of course, as you said, it's a hearsay, it is a conspiracy, it is a school of thought of some people. But you may wish to know that President Museveni, since his childhood, has been against nomadism. He has actually stated and done that he has always wanted settled nomads in their area. And also, we could judge this hearsay or school of thought from a policy position taken. Because if there was no non-policy position taken by government that this is what we are doing, then the other one becomes speculation.
Thank you.
And that is why I told you already, if that was a policy position, then why the in-depth that Brigadier Kanyesge had gone in? So I think for now we could leave speculation to speculation. We would judge government by policy, non-policy positions taken, if it was to support Balalo being there.
Thank you. Honorable Fungaro Caps, in a country that's still struggling to find cohesion, what does a controversy like a group of Ugandans settled in another part of the country cause so much commotion in a country? What does that mean to a country struggling to find cohesion and to live with itself?
Yeah, thank you very much. This matter of the Balalo should not be brought in to the general question of national cohesion, national unity in Uganda among the rest of the Ugandans. First of all, who are these Balalo? Are they Ugandans? Most of these Balalo who have come and have moved to the north are not Ugandans. Some of them are from Tanzania. We talk to them. Some of them are from Congo. Others are from Rwanda. Those who came from Tanzania were expelled by the government of the Republic of Tanzania. It's on record. We talk to them. I also want to bring it and make it a point here.
Does that suggest they are not Tanzanian? How could the government of Tanzania expel?
They are not Tanzanians.
They are not Ugandans?
They are not Ugandans.
Who are they?
This is a question we must establish. Either they are Rwandese or Congolese. We need the Congolese government to speak about them. Because the Tanzanians have spoken. In Uganda we are speaking now. But the issue is here. These Balalo have come to occupy land and displace people. There is a program, a deliberate program to make them settle. They are aided by power. Because you hear from them. They are not only in Acholi. I must make this clear to you. In West Nile, we have gone through them. And the person speaking here, me, myself, I'm a victim of their being harassed. We started expelling them from Obongi. We gathered over 3,000 heads of cattle, around 2015 to 17 there. And we asked them to move away. The brigade commander for Moyo plus police and army, they were deployed on us. The chairman of LC5 then of Moyo district, Mr. Vukoni, together with us, we united ourselves and we spoke to those people that, please, you go. We have told you slowly, you go. The Balalo are very arrogant people. They tell us, we shall call commander, so and so. And they call, and you hear somebody speaking in the background. There was one who threatened the LC3 chairman then of Gemara sub-county, Mr. Awami Samlonga, that he was a general and these are his cattle. He did not want these people to be harassed. For us, we told them in plain language, the army is for Uganda. And you are presenting it to us that this army is yours, the commanders are yours. Okay, we agree. Because of the nepotism in the army, those who have been promoted are largely Balalo people or Banyankole. But we don't dismiss the fact that we have also people in the army. The officers are yours. Take them. The rank and file are ours. We need them. If this issue is supposed to be resolved by the army, let us speak to the army. Let the Balalo officers support the Balalo, and the rank and file support the people of the north. So that was the statement. We reached a point of consensus finally that let the Balalo with their 3,000 heads of cattle collected from Obongi and parts of Lefori in Moyo move along the road. We told them, go along the road. So this is what happened in our case.
You were a legislator.
Yes.
The Constitution allows Ugandans to settle in any part of the country.
Yes.
Weren't you acting contrary to the Constitution as a lawmaker?
The problem was this. Those people came, they were not grazing according to the norms of grazing there. Our cattle grazing methods were this. Cattle share watering points. Theirs, when they have taken a piece of land, they don't want another cattle to come and drink from the same river. Secondly, our cows could not be driven through gardens of people without feeling sorry. But for the Balalo, even if they drive their cattle through your garden, you are supposed to apologize to them, instead of them apologizing to you.
You're whipping up sentiment, aren't you?
I mean, this is what happened to me. I was chased with guns like this. I'm telling you a story.
Sentiment
no, I'm telling you a story which happened to me, and we have captured it on camera. You see, if you want this, because of the advancement of science and technology, in the rural areas, there are also cameras like this in Obongi. Obongi people are not joking subjects. We got evidence because we know you don't see what is happening there. and we have our evidence to you, to be ready to be presented to you. So what happened to me was, we deployed cameras, powerful cameras with long zoom lens like this. We captured the DISO of Moyo. We have the brigade commander, and the DISO was transferred eventually to Masaka. When we presented these things that, okay, you see, these machine guns deployed now to defend Balalo cattle keepers. Our resolution is this. We have a common problem in northern Uganda. From Obongi, we went to Madiokolo, to Yumbe, to Nebi, and the chairman of the LC5 of Pakwachi district, who is now seated there, was the speaker of Nebi District Council. We sat together with them. Honorable Dongauto, Honorable Ogama Ismail of Madiokolo, we came and addressed a press conference here. After that, and then Honorable Mapenduzi, when he was chairman of LC5, we addressed, we said, Mr. President, it's now, this is going to be resolved by the army. This is what we get from the Balalo. And the Balalo are calling their army officers. Give us an order that the army officers who are Balalos who support the Balalo. The rank and file soldiers, this is what we made clear. And we thank the president.
Isn't your argument a contradiction when you say Balalo are non-Ugandan, but you're saying these same people have army officers who are supporting them?
Kagame is not a Ugandan, but he was an army officer here.
So they are calling Kagame?
No, I'm giving you an example.
I'm asking.
There are still some non-Ugandans who are in the army of Uganda. You think the Banyarwandas have gone all? Some of them who were here with the Rejema, with the Kagame, with the who, they have remained in the army. And these are the ones who are called. And they speak in favor of this Balalo here.
You're aware, Honorable Fungaro Caps, that the Constitution lists. So are you talking about Rwandan citizens or Banyarwanda?
Is Kagame Ugandan? No, this is an example. His Excellency Paul Kagame, is he a Ugandan?
He's the president of Rwanda.
I mean, is he Ugandan? A Ugandan being a president of another country?
No, I'm asking you.
The truth here is, we had people who are not Ugandans. There is one called General James Kabarabe, a good friend of mine, Kaberebe. We met when I was Shadow Minister of Defense and Security. We went for an official duty in Rwanda. The whole Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs, we were there in Rwanda. And they were hosted by General Kaberebe. He told us his story. How he started in Makerere, he was born in the Congo, he started in Makerere, and then he joined the NRA Busuo, then he joined the PF, they fought in Rwanda, and again they went to fight in Congo. So, do you think all these people have gone? Some of them could be here in the army now, and they are the ones who are giving big-headedness to this Balalo here. They want to bully us, because they think all the army officers are their people. Our own are very small. They think like this because they fear being not promoted. They fear not being appointed as ministers. Money for the political leaders now who are selling land in northern Uganda. The money is in the hands of the friends or the relatives of the Balalo. The guns are with them. Appointment, political power is with them. So our people are being reduced to like this, begging like this. The way forward is this. This is a common problem for the whole of northern Uganda.
Are there people
Let the people of the north speak with one voice and let the Balalo live at the same time. Not that you chase them from Acholi, they go to West Nile. If you chase them from West Nile, they go to Lango.
Are there people in... let me change my question to you. Do you own land in any other part of the country?
Owning land in town. We have actually told the Balalo at that time, if you want to come and stay in Obongi, you come to Obongi town. You come and build in town. Come and do business in town. In Moyo, in Arua. You go to Arua. All tribes of Uganda are there. Have you heard of anybody being expelled from Arua town or Arua city? The problem is the Balalo are expelling us from the land. By the way, the future is very bad. What is going to happen in northern Uganda will be similar to what happened in Australia against the Aboriginals. When white people left Europe, aided by power of colonizing power, they went to Australia. Now they call themselves Australians. The real natives of the Australian population, the Aboriginals, have been exterminated. There is a new war, new warfare called the I War. I War. It is taught in war colleges. I War means information war, individualized war. They take your thumbprint, your eye, your genes, DNA, and they can exterminate a whole line of a clan like this. When the Balalo have settled in your area, you know that you are not going to produce children with the rate that you will fill that area. Because they will inject you with some kind of chemicals where you cease producing.
You're spreading,
it happened.
No, you're spreading things that you can't verify.
It happened in America. This is science, not just hearsay.
And what happened?
You have seen the Red Indians in America.
Yes.
The original natives of the U.S.
Have they been exterminated?
You go and count them, read them. There is a book. I wish I came with them. Okay, there is one book here which I want to give you. I don't know whether you have read this book.
Authored by who?
Have you seen this book? The Rise of the I War. Identity, Information, and the Individualization of Modern Warfare by Colonel O'Neill. This is from the U.S. United States Army War College. How they use information to track people individually.
Yes.
This thing of Uganda happening today.
What is the link between Kato and
no, I mean, this is how, when they know you, they know the land is here, Emulalo are settled here, there is now a clan of the Balalo.
You said you succeeded in chasing them out of Obongi.
They came back. After they fired me with the bullets, they thought removing Fungaro from parliament will save them. Let them wait. Actually, people, Lango people recently from the area of this district where you cross with the Masindi Ferry Port. Recently there was a problem there. So we are saying we don't want problems with the Balalo. Your Excellency, Mr. President, you are our president, because Uganda cannot have two presidents. You are the president today. You are ours, you are also for the Balalo. You avoid this giving of contradictory orders. This thing of like no movement of cattle to northern Uganda except with the permission of the Minister of Agriculture. And who is the Minister of Agriculture? Bright Ramarema or somebody close to that. And Bright Ramarema plus Balalo or minus Balalo, is there any difference? These are the same people. They say, okay, no movement of cattle except with the approval of the Minister of Lands. And who is the Minister of Lands? Nabakoba. Is there a difference? This, you are moving within the same network. President
Which network?
This thing of saying
except.
President Museveni is just deceiving us. He's giving time, buying time for the Balalo to sit properly. That, okay, you get this agreement, you sign, wasting time like this. President Museveni doesn't want the Balalo to leave northern Uganda. That's the reality. He's facilitating them to settle there. General Salim Saleh and Museveni are like this. This one speaks this way, the other one will speak the other way. They first sit in their sitting room and discuss, and then one person speaks. You think one is your friend, the other one is your enemy. They are the same on this issue of Balalo.
I've listened to you. Let me listen to.
So the Balalos must leave northern Uganda. If they don't leave today, they'll leave tomorrow.
Is there a risk that by the way you're speaking, you're spreading hate against the people who might be innocent?
This one I have been taken to court. Me, like you see me like this, I'm a suspect. Because there is a court registered against me. But when we prepared ourselves to go and defend ourselves in court with the people West Nile as witnesses lying like this, the Balalo vanished. We have our lawyers. We have informed them. There's a case there. Now I've seen they are circulating another case against Olanya Gilbert. Let Olanya Gilbert go to the court. Let all the people of northern Uganda go to the court. They build a big prison for all of us, and we go to the prison, all of us. Because the courts are theirs, the police are theirs.
Let me bring in Honorable Semu Junganda here.
There is unfairness in this thing.
How does an issue as controversial as this get resolved? Because there is a risk that legitimate Ugandans have bought land in a part of the country, they've settled there, and then the political class mobilizes one community against another.
See, this matter is a very difficult one. The MPs from, I think mainly the Lango, during when they raised this matter in Parliament, I think it must have been either the last or the other Parliament, they said the Lango is not Buganda, where you just go and settle. Lango is not Buganda. Mr. Museveni, in the matters of Balalo, is conflicted. Is conflicted, and it's going to be very difficult for him to have that matter resolved. I think if individuals, one person moves to go and settle, I don't think that will be as a problem as when they appear. They may not, but they may appear to be ferried. There is someone ferrying. Let me take you back to conversation Mr. Museveni had with Wafula Ogutu. At least you and I worked at Munda. Mr. Museveni wanted to create a district called Zimbabwe. And Wafula told him it will cause you a problem with the Baganda. He said, where are Baganda? They are not there. They are in Wakiso and Usiro. So he said, he didn't use the word Wakiso. He said they are in Usiro, and Wafula also wanted the Bujiri to be created as a district. And Museveni said, no, you are going to cause him problems in Busoga. He said, but for you with Zimbabwe, it is not a problem. For me with the Bujiri, it is a problem. If you look at most of the districts, some of the districts in Uganda, from Lyantonde to Zimbabwe, Nakasongola, I think is Bali now a district of Ono.
No, it's not.
Museveni at least created these districts for Balalo deliberately.
Is Balalo a tribe? Is it an ethnic community? What is it?
Whichever it is.
No. What is it?
Ofono gave you a profile. I have visited Ankole. There are people in Ankole who are cultivators, but there are also people in Ankole who are herdsmen. When you are speaking about Balalo, you are not speaking about Karamajong, because they are as vulnerable as any other person in Uganda. Balalo today no longer represents herdsmen who are innocent people just looking after cows. We're talking about people who are in power. By the way, in the world, when they are starting, the way it nearly caused the problem. The Baganda there had even to be told that Moraro, the one of Ofono as a Mchaka instructor, Moraro doesn't mean a Moraro. They are saying, but at parade they are saying Moraro, Jew, Moraro. Said, so even at a parade, Moraro must be above a Muganda. You can speak to those guys who are
So are you suggesting that these migrations and settlements are older than
the
period we're discussing?
People we are talking about today, those who are complaining think they are induced, they are not going on their own. That's why the Honorable Fungaro and many politicians from northern Uganda, they are speaking about Amudivararo. We are speaking about the same people in Gomba. They come and settle on a piece of land. They are looking after their cows, no longer using sticks, but guns. So these guns are, I mean, there is no Museveni is going to allow you, even if a whole village has one gun, you can come and bomb it.
If you are not a Mulani.
So so this matter is a controversial matter. It's a political matter. It's not people who are just looking for pasture and water to go and graze their cattle. I know that Mr. Museveni has held a meeting of Bararo from Tanzania, from Rwanda, from Congo, from Uganda. And in that meeting, he was telling them they are a very big group in East Africa, that if only they united and worked together, they will be prosperous. And he said the problem is that what Ofono said is that you are too nomadic. You need to do the following. First, you need to send your children to school. 2, you need to buy land and settle. That he has told them. And he said he can help them with education. That's how he goes to start that school where people are not paying money.
Which school is that?
He's spoken about it many times. Are you hearing it for the first time?
No, you're saying that school. And I'm asking which school that is.
So
is that the only school where people don't pay money?
Established by the president, who is preaching universal primary education. The controversy is that he pays school fees for each of the child in that school at 700,000, and then he pays 10,000 for every other child of Uganda in any other UPE school. That's the controversy of Onopondo. It's not the only school, but that particular one, he pays school. You need to go and read
which particular school is that you're referring to?
That primary Kanyarere of Mr. Museveni. You need to go and read the story. You need to read the report of the Education Committee in Parliament and former Mitiana Umane MP. And I think that's what caused their problems. But the point is, Charles, is that you are dealing with a president who has a hidden agenda of making Bararo a superior group in Uganda. They must go to school, they must dominate the command of the military, they must go and establish presence everywhere. And matters like this, he has dealt with them before. You remember the chairman of Chibari? Because the Wanyoro complained, he said, an elected chairman, Mr. Museveni, removed him. He said, you are causing us problems in Bunyoro. But he had been elected. And he removed him and gave him a job because the Wanyoros were complaining.
But I thought we had the one.
Okay.
So for me, these Wararo appear, this is a problem that is induced by people who are in power. The Wararo must go and settle everywhere there is none. And you see, during the war, if Charles, if you remember, remember Father Carlos, one of the pamphlets he wrote, Let My People Go, when he was writing about camps. The complaint at the beginning from northern Uganda is that they were deliberately being kept in the camp for these people to come and steal their land. And any one of you here can remember. That was a very big complaint.
What is the risk that...
was that complaint accurate?
It doesn't have to be accurate. But the moment you begin having Wararo going there, they go back. People are emotional about this. Because land in northern Uganda was a very controversial matter.
Okay.
That they have kept all here to chase everybody from the village so they can come and settle.
I'll give you more time. I'm afraid we need to take a break. But Mwesugwa Samuel is watching us and says, on the issue of Balalo, I think people of northern Uganda should be polite. In the book Luwero War, In the Eyes of a Witness, available in a restock bookshop, it's written that Obote brought northerners in Luwero, or to Luwero, as spies, and also collectors of graduated tax, and they have settled in Buganda. They are not attacked. In Bombo, is Bombo in the north? They should learn to coexist with others. Indeed, it's not north only with migrant people. Nakaseke North has Banyarwanda and Banyankore, and it's in Buganda. Kiegegwa, Kienjojo, Kamwenge, Kibale, Kakumiro have Bachiga as majority. Should we chase them too? Honorable Fungaro is faced with tribal nationalism based on identity politics, and he wants a political comeback. Let's take a break. We'll pick this conversation up in a moment.
NBS Frontline.
Journey through color, discover new world beyond the ordinary. Switch on your imagination, let me take you on a tour. Ordinary is boring, switch it up a bit.
Ordinary is boring. Our paint is not. That's why Duracoat Color Mania machine gives you up to 4,000 amazing color shades. Visit your nearest dealer for more information today. Duracoat. Ask the experts. Uganda, are you ready for a reggae-filled night sipping on some red wine? You better be, because UB40 featuring Ali Campbell is here. Tickets available on tanticketing.com.
Reason why I love you, why you like my day, you are my son. Reason why I love you too, cannot give enough of you.
Are you having headache, sore throat, muscle pain, toothache, or fever? Then use Curamo Plus. Curamo Plus is strong on pain and gentle on stomach. It's available in all drug shops countrywide. It's not recommended for children under the age of 12 years. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Attention, attention! Many of you have been buying backroom sheets. That has to stop. Engineer Kajubi induce classing session. No school fees. Kati wali wabagamba. Nti all mabati are the same. Mbalaba. It seems you want a retake in building your home. Some of you go to make road call on your roof, only to find that karate yasoke. Eyo muveyo. And those of you taking shortcuts, eyo nyondo kumutwe webeba. Now, let me tell you, superior quality, terimba. nothing beats superior quality.
Choose from Uganda Bati's wide range of superior quality roof sheets and make your home the pride of the neighborhood.
Now, this is what I call a home.
Uganda Bati, nothing beats superior quality.
Jovia, as you embark on this journey of life, I give you the gift of unstoppable power. The power to be seen and heard in the most distant lands. To go everywhere without going anywhere. To have access to the whole world. To travel through time and know everything there is to be known. Jovia, this is my gift to you.
There's no limit to what you can do on the Unstoppable Network.
Together, we're unstoppable.
Better steady, be better.
7 out of 10 of us have lost a substantial amount of money to fraudsters. Money we could have used to pay rent, invest in small businesses, clear fees, or send to mama in the village. Better steady and protect what's yours by being vigilant with your virtual transactions. Keep your PIN to yourself and only take calls from registered customer care numbers in case of telecom issues.
Better steady, be better.
To you by Uganda Communications Commission, Bank of Uganda, MTN Uganda, Stanbic Bank, Uganda Bankers Association, United Media, Equity, and MTN Momo.
I'm going to Nyege Nyege! Step into the world of Nyege Nyege for 4 unforgettable days and nights where your wildest dreams come to life and the party never stops. Come with us as we return to the source of the Nile from November 9th to 12th. Secure your tickets and accommodation now.
Jovia, as you embark on this journey of life, I give you the gift of unstoppable power. The power to be seen and heard in the most distant lands. To go everywhere without going anywhere. To have access to the whole world. To travel through time and know everything there is to be known. Jovia, this is my gift to you.
There's no limit to what you can do on the Unstoppable Network.
Together, we're unstoppable.
Frontline.
The controversy over settlement in northern Uganda, in Acholi sub-region, by a group of people now christened the Balalo. Who are they? Ambassador Harold Achema is watching us from Arua, and he says the Balalo menace is frankly indefensible, provocative and unacceptable. The wish of the vast majority of peace-loving and law-abiding people of Acholi sub-region is loud and clear, namely that the Balalo must go. That wish must be honored, respected, and implemented by the government of Uganda. I would like to invite Ambassador Harold Achema to watch something happening in Southern Africa, an operation that has been tagged Operation Dudula. What does that mean? And it's been called xenophobic. I think you might want to interest yourself in watching that and comparing with the Balalo Must Go campaign in northern Uganda. There's also controversy about, someone says, I think CAPS is out of order. I expect more maturity from him rather than him fueling fire in the whole issue. He's actually on the tribalism and racism border. Do we need this hate speech? As a Ugandan citizen, I believe one has a right to stay in any part of the country legally. If we can accommodate refugees, why not our own, some of whom have genuinely bought land? Could you give him a quick answer?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, there are many different communities who are in northern Uganda and in West Nile in particular. Have you heard in West Nile that Baganda have been chased? Even in Obongi, we have businessmen who come all the way from Kisoro. They are opening the shops, trading, they are doing there. So our issue of the Balalo is different. The Balalo are targeting land, and land is a resource. It is a resource which is not growing. They want to take away the land. The refugees are accommodated there. They don't have this problem of chasing away people from there. We do not want a repeat of things which we are already aware about in places like Australia or USA. We are not tribalists.
That actually is the one that is talking hate. No, what you're trying to say, you're trying to create scare among people, but also lumping together those who might have genuinely bought their land and are settled or have leased their land.
First of all, in northern Uganda, land is not for sale. If you want to use land,
is that factual?
To this, if you want to use land, they give it to you. You come to Obonga, I give you land. Under right of use.
Are there people you have given right of use now?
Yes.
By tagging the whole group Balalo, you're sweeping everybody under.
The Balalo have similar characteristics. That's why it is very easy to group them together. You have seen...
friends you have invited. Friends you have invited and given user rights.
You see, there are people... By the way, West Nilers are the most friendly people. West Nile is not a tribe. It's
Your
not one
speech
tribe.
doesn't... The things you just said... The things you just said, Honorable Fungaro, the things you just said do not show the most friendly people. You spoke like someone who's showing the most hateful people.
No.
Let me take a message. Let me take a message.
Who are exiles from Congo during
Let me take a message from Ken Mutenyo and we'll move on. He says, some education is required. Balalo are not a tribe. The word of Balalo mean a place where someone sleeps. Balalo are people who look for accommodation with their cattle. The original places of abode have been fenced off as ranches. As pastoralists and nomadic in nature, they move northwards. Where is the east, central, and west individuals? Whereas in the east, central, and west individuals own land, the land tenure system in the north does not help because it's the community that owns the land. Uganda is known to be a refugee welcoming country. Yes, the constitution allows Ugandans to settle and stay anywhere. Solution: we need to look at our laws. We need dialogue among communities and national reconciliation. That's why the DP Cooperation Agreement covers the 3 areas mentioned above: law reforms, national dialogue, and reconciliation. That's from Ken Mutenyo. Someone else here, it's a fairly long message. The Balalo issue is exceptional. You won't understand until you become the victim.
Yes.
Much as I don't support the current approach, the community have exhausted all the means. What made me detest the Balalo and know that they are there for real occupation is their arrogant utterances that they are there to upgrade, crossbreed, they actually bribe. They graze their cows on people's crops. They're above the law. They steal the cows of the local people at will. They are in big numbers. These are many. This is from a former member of parliament, the Honorable Lily Adong, and it's a fairly long message. I'm not able to take all of it, but some of those are his her sentiments rather. Let me take a message from Muhimbese, George, who says, this controversy is a reflection of the social inequalities in the country, where a person can sell 1 acre of land in one part of the country and buys 20 acres in another region. It also speaks to an open border policy where non-Ugandans from neighboring countries can easily find their way in Uganda, and it's hard to determine who is Ugandan and who is foreign. With the world turning into a global village, the East African community taking shape, the situation could be worse. The arrogance, poor grazing methods, etc., is another cause of conflict. If they were able to coexist with other people, there will be no problem. I think he raises something interesting. In a region that is pushing for integration, regional integration, a borderless community, we're still fighting over people moving from one part of the country, settling in another. Honorable Fungaro wants now Congo is part of the East African community. Rwanda is part of the East African community. South Sudan is part of the East African community. To facilitate what? Ease a movement of people and services, goods and services across the region. Why are these controversies happening? I'm afraid I cannot reopen the discussion. I just want to take us a few messages that I can.
You said I continue and conclude on this, and then you got another point.
Yes. The approach for the Acholi elites, including Honorable Gilbert Olanya and the rest, intend to give the Balalo controversy is not only unprofessional but also acrimonious. This is seen in the unvirtuous statements they make. For example, the Balalo on Acholi land. What intends to blend a lot of emotions like anger. Issues of land settlement are matters of the law and cannot be addressed by mere bitterness and ill feeling. That's Arthur from Rakai district. Let me see if I can just take one more message. I'm afraid I can't take more messages or continue with this discussion because we need to switch to the controversy surrounding the legacy of Idi Amin and efforts to celebrate and recognize his contribution through prayers, through a public debate or public dialogue, and through an institute that President Yoweri Museveni has said should not be recognized. We'll be joined in this discussion online by Timothy Kalyegira. Timothy Kalyegira has turned himself into an Amini researcher and has raised some of the most controversial questions, and I believe he will be raising more. So if we have Timothy Kalyegira, I would like to start with him, and then we'll come back into studio. Okay, let me start with actually Fungaro Hassan Kaps. You said you are the PRO of the organizing committee of what?
Of the Idi Amin remembrance activities, where there are three major ones. One has already been done successfully in the form of a memorial prayer taking place, which took place on the 16th, from the 16th up to the 18th of August 2023. And the second one was intended to be a memorial lecture to take place in Muni University. That one did not take place. Then the third one...
Why did it take place?
Due to challenges which arose, we can say by extrapolation, taking the graph backwards, due to this letter which now came like this. We found difficulties in arranging the venue, and eventually we could not proceed, but we have rescheduled it to take place in another day, in another place. Time will be announced, and the place will be announced later. Now, another issue is about legacy projects and memorial projects. The institute, the Idi Amin, the proposed Idi Amin Memorial Institute comes in the aspect of memorial projects, which are projects put by people like you and me who thought it wise that Idi Amin should be remembered using this and that projects. But there are also legacy projects we talked about. Legacy projects are projects which were initiated by His Excellency Al-Hajj Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada during his time, but were not completed by the time his government was overthrown. For example, we had this Gaddafi Mosque, which was initiated by him. It was left, it was not finished, but people after him came and completed it, thanks to the Mufti, His Eminency Ramadan Mubaja and other group people. And then there is a mosque in Ibombo, in Ilira, in Koboko. Then there is the Islamic University in Uganda, IUIU, which was his brainchild. The master plan of the IUIU, we have it. The master plan of the IUIU indicated that the IUIU was supposed to be built in Arua. There's a place called Arivo, on the road between Arua City and Nebi, Pakwati Road, this road here. When the government of Field Marshal Idi Amin was overthrown, the government that came after was, yes, implemented the idea of the university, but changed the plan, changed the location. The main campus now is in Mbale, other campuses in Kampala here, Kibuli, and the Kaboja female campus. We thank the management of the IUIU that they also put a branch to take place to the original place in West Nile there. Now there is a campus of IUIU there. But the problem is, IUIU Arua campus doesn't have a home of its own. It is living in a rented premises or a given premises given by an NGO on an MOU. The MOU has expired. Recent information we got is that the owner of the premises wants that premises. Now we are saying, a university like this one, to be expelled because it doesn't have a home of its own is not a good thing. West Nile has wake up. Problems of land later on came, even in the land which Idi Amin had procured, compensated people, and it was supposed for the university. Now there are some people who are there, disputes there. Now leaders in West Nile, under these arrangements now, are mobilizing to settle the land dispute. There is a call made to the districts of Arua, Yumbe, Madiokolo, Obongi, Koboko to offer land for IUIU. Okay. Such that the people who are in that land which was meant for the university maybe will be relocated and then it will be done here. Finally, the issue of the Memorial Institute, Idi Amin Memorial Institute, is intended to provide a platform for educational, an educational environment.
Okay. I'm afraid, Honorable Fungaro, you hold your thought for a moment. Let me get Timothy Kaligira online. Timothy, welcome to the Frontline. Yes. Timothy, we're discussing the legacy of Idi Amin and the controversy over this Amin Institute, which President Yoweri Museveni has rejected and said the many things that he has said. I'll be reading his letter shortly. But to you, how do you contextualize the current controversy and the man Idi Amin?
Well, it says a lot that we had a stage in history where we can even have discussions about Idi Amin's legacy. There's a time when anything about Idi Amin was shame, taboo, shock, and scandal. Now we have full-fledged discussions about Idi Amin's legacy, even using the word legacy, and many people begin to compare the Idi Amin years to the NRM years. Right, who would have expected that? So it's live in interesting times.
Yes, Timothy? Yes? Timothy, we can't hear you well. I think let's try and cut the call and call you back so that we'll hopefully hear you better.
I hope it's not deliberate.
You can hear that the line is not clear.
Museveni may have switched him off.
Now, what kind of...
you know Timothy Kariejira and Andrew Mwenda were not even suspended, were chased from Monitor at the same time. One of the articles both of them wrote was on late Noble Mayombo in a Sunday Monitor. But Kariejira specifically, Mr. Museveni called Aga Khan to complain that Kariejira was rewriting Uganda's history, because Kariejira had written an article calling people who claim that Amin killed more than 500,000 people to publish at least 10,000 names of those that Amin killed. He later revised to say, okay, now 2,000. Late John Nagina replied, was very angry. And eventually Museveni said
Kaligira says that Kaligira says that everybody who tried to write back, nobody was able to put together 100 names.
That was his demand. That okay, you've said the man killed more than 500,000. Publish names of 10,000. He said, okay, 10,000 is too much. 2,000. Instead of publishing names, Museveni called Aga Khan to say Kariejira was rewriting Uganda's history. But for me, you are going to someone else. But if I grab this opportunity, you see, I am shocked that Museveni can no longer, so he's unable to conceal his hatred of Idi Amin as a person, but also his hatred of Muslims. And I want to say this with a straight face, because Chazanga, where I was born, many of the Muslims that were being slaughtered in Mbarara and thrown in River Ruiz ended up in Chazanga. That's why that trading center is full of Muslims. And Mr. Museveni remains accused with the Rwakasis. When Idi Amin was killed, their group, I don't remember specifically.
Idi Amin wasn't killed. Idi Amin died.
When Idi Amin was removed, I don't remember in their group specifically, but Museveni had a duty as someone who was responsible for defense. But they said, we have ferried the stem, you can deal with the branches. and Muslims were killed in Mbarara. So Museveni remains a suspect. He's the head of state, we cannot try him. Recently, I met the family of Idi Amin, the wife. They were demanding for their house to be returned. When it came to the house of Idi Amin, do you know what Museveni said?
Our understanding is that, yeah, you said Museveni accused Timothy of rewriting history.
Yes.
Amin had more than one wife.
So I've said Medina.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the others. The one I met was Medina. Museveni said when it came to the house of Idi Amin, that the law should take its course because there are others.
I'm afraid I need to get I have Timothy back, so I need to get him in. Timothy, do we have you back? I hope we have a clearer line than we had before.
I hope so.
Okay. Yes, you explaining to us, what is this legacy of Idi Amin that people talk about? And why are we discussing that now?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. It's a very interesting thing that considering the taboo, the shame, the taboo, the shock thing that was Idi Amin for most of the last 50 years, is that we have gotten to a stage where we can even discuss what I'm called Idi Amin in terms of a legacy. So I think it's very something about the generation of the current political situation. People have lost hope. They see a lot of the atrocities, a lot of the abuse of power that they had been raised to believe was of the Idi Amin era. And so now people begin to look back in history and think a little more sympathetically about Amin. So I just say something about the inherent degeneration, in my opinion.
Okay. There is a lot of controversy over the 8 or 9 years that Amin was in power. Very many people died, and that blame has been placed squarely on Amin's head. Can that be erased? Can that be changed by what some people might call an effort to sanitize his legacy today?
Well, I guess that it's hard, difficult for. I mean, by definition, he was this big, kind of like a semi-literate, buffoonish figure, given to making all these outrageous statements and and bizarre pronouncements. So Amin made the perfect political cartoon character. And because of all that, it's very difficult, no matter what you explain about Amin, no matter how much you research and read the records, it's very difficult to persuade people that Amin was not what he was. For example, with a person like the late President Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe, because of his eloquence, because of his, gentlemanly demeanor, it won't take long before people start looking at him favorably, and research will back up a person like him. So because of all these films, all these statements, conquer the British Empire and everything, and his, his illiterate status, it just might be difficult for at least most of the world to view Amin differently. He's just set in history as the butcher of Africa. But then, well, that's the nature of world history. Maybe many more years must go by, something like 50 more years, before people will be prepared to see the facts about Amin. But much of Amin's history was distorted.
Thank you, Timothy. Let me, if you can stay online kindly, let me first come back to studio and engage the other panelists that I have here.
Can I conclude?
If you can conclude, and then I go to Paul and
so therefore the Museveni's hatred of Amin and Muslim, at least to us who are victims of that, it is known. Milton Obote is not covered under the law that was done by Parliament to give benefits to former presidents, but he gets them.
His family does.
His family does. Millie Obote does, and others. When it came to the Amin, the law must be interpreted as it is. I even went to meet the Minister of Public Service. I asked them, why don't you first get Amin's family and give them a house? They are claiming a house. They refused. Even when they are sick, I remember one time when I raised the matter in Parliament, the Honorable Nathan Ankabirwa, who was a government whip, had to call State House, call so and so to get Amini's wife treated. So that level of hatred, I don't know. I think Museveni, because Obote,
does that actually hold? This same Museveni, who you say hates Amin so much, got Amin's son Taban, returned from Kinshasa, so and promoted him within the Internal Security Organization.
You see, there are things people do the same way Museveni spoke about J.J. Odong, asking Wanyankole MPs, do you think J.J. is Army commander? So in your heart, do you believe that Amin's son is a director in ESO? Do you think so? There are things that Museveni does for public relations, but he doesn't believe in them.
I have seen him moving around town with very powerful.
Powerful doing what? Just telling me not to, so you mean you are going to determine the power by someone moving in town?
No, I mean when he moves.
Anyway, that was a PR stunt by Museveni. But he simply doesn't like Museveni doesn't like Muslims. But the point for me, going to the specific issue of the institute, I find a problem with many Africans, not only Museveni. I was told by Imam Kasozu, who visited Libya, after the overthrow of Amin, Libyans descended on the State House, Babu al-Azizia, erased it and started throwing their rubbish.
Oh, you're talking about after the overthrow of Gaddafi?
Yes, long after Gaddafi had been thrown and killed. I was in Tehran. The Tsar, who was their king and was violently removed, had about, I think, 4 houses on
4 palaces.
Yeah, on a hill. One is gold, another one is silver. Even after the violent overthrow in 1979, they kept them. They are a tourist center. They also kept the raincoat and something of Khomeini to show how modest he was. So you can visit both. In Uganda here, I have argued, if I had my own way, I had wanted the history of Uganda preserved, all of it, from the first president. I would want to visit Museveni's museum if he has gone, or even dead. I want to see an Amin museum in Kampala. I was with 2000 when we went to observe elections in the UK. We were taken to Parliament. Cromwell, who removed the Parliament, has his statue at Parliament. The one under his reign said there will be no Parliament. His statue is at Parliament. Because even if you don't like Idi Amin, okay, publish a book. Let Museveni publish a book about Idi Amin, and it is taught and read in the Amin Institute. Yes. I have gone to Radio Uganda to complain because one of the functions of Radio Uganda and that whole establishment was to run an archive. They left all the history outside and rain destroyed it. What Mr. Museveni did was to go and pick his history from Radio Uganda and then established an archive in State House.
Radio Uganda?
Initially Uganda it was TV. Radio Uganda. TV just moved there. But there was that building near National Theatre was meant to be an archive. All the speeches, all the photographs, everything about the leaders. Because that unit, presidential unit, was supposed to be covering, and it has a lot of information. We have lost all that. I mean, how I wish that we can have a Museveni museum, the Museveni of Kaunda suit, the one who was eating on using plastic plates, the modest Museveni of that time. And you're going to show people how Museveni has migrated from that very modest Marxist Museveni to one today who worships wealth. You go to Amin, you go to Obote, you go to everything. You remember the photographs of the Kadogos sleeping on Tito Kero's bed. All that history for me, I think is worth correcting and worth keeping.
Thank you.
I am really shocked that anyone sensible can say just naming an institute after Idi Amin, it means Amin. Are they going to teach Amin and award a degree in Amin?
Let's hear from Paula Wich and Ofono Pondo. How does it feel that we're discussing Amin in the way we're discussing him? And what kind of Amin are we talking about? What you say?
If you read the president's letter, the kind of Amin we are talking about is a person who ran fascism as a system. And he uses the word clearly in his letter. And he also questions the constitutionality. You see, many people will argue that there's a famous man called Mr. Kelsen. Kelsen says when you take over reign of power and you exerted authority, you become the legitimate government. But this was 1920, because Kelsen was a judge of the Supreme Court of Appeal in Austria. And his theory of pure law came in. So you could say a man had a government. But then this theory was being overtaken by time, in that when you take over power, you give back to the people through elections. You can be a candidate if you wish. So Amin took over power, and actually when Fungaro said that he was list Alhaji Amin, he forgot a title where Amin clearly stated that life president.
What's the difference?
Life
Is
president.
Museveni a life president?
So, Museveni is not a life president. Museveni holds power through a periodic 5-year election. So now, you have that situation. But also, remember that along this line, the governance system is that a government is run under 3 arms. The parliament, which makes law, the executive, which of it you could call the president, and also the courts. Now, clearly, Amin ran it on 2 arms, the court and the executive. So, all these and others exhibited fascism. And if you look across the world, in Germany, for example, after Hitler, even in Austria, where Hitler was born, do you know that they're destroying the house now? Because it still gives chances to neo-Nazism to worship it as a shrine. And actually, you have seen footballers around the world. Have you ever seen one in Germany called Hitler? So, President Museveni is saying...
So you're comparing Amin to Hitler?
Because he ran a fascist government, recognized all over by all tenets and all ingredients of fascism. Again, I wanted to start with Honorable Fungaro. Honorable Fungaro says...
Major Paula, for the benefit of some of our viewers, what is a fascist government? What is it like?
I already mentioned you 2 ingredients.
Yes.
I already mentioned 2 ingredients. A mere declaration that I'm here, life president, keep quiet. The other ingredient is that I'm ruling by decree, forget about parliament. And others are ingredients of fascism.
So
okay?
Now, if someone says, I cannot be removed by a ballot, how is that different from that declaration of Idi Amin? That if you think a mere ballot can remove me?
Yes. You see, when Museveni said a mere ballot cannot remove me, what Museveni meant was ballot can be cultivated by service delivery. It is what we do. Yes, you did. It is what we do that, because if we are going to the field and we are going to get ballot, we can't get the ballot. But the ballot that we are going to get is by identification and getting solutions to people's problems. Then you get the ballot. Now, I was saying, I have discussed this with my friend Honorable Fungaro. I had raised a preliminary objection to his case. He's the spokesperson. Amin's son, on record, came and said, this issue of the institute is not what is akin to them, they don't want it. So I have said, Honorable Fungaro,
they don't want it.
even when Musazi was being taken to Kololo with great honor, the family as stakeholders had to be consulted. And in fact, there was a big debate in the Musazi family. One of the daughters is now ambassador in Cuba. So now, how do you then
remove him from Kororo?
How do you
ever remove him?
How do you? Yes, but you have to consult the family. So how would you then say? And this is a preliminary objection I wanted to raise to Fungaro, that you are going to decide you want a mean institute, but the families are saying we don't want you, we don't know you. So isn't this some hatching of some kind? But back to the point is that by all ingredients and that I have mentioned, it is not good to adore fascism. And that is what President Museveni is saying. And it is all over the world, whether it is Mussolini in Italy or it is Hitler. And it should be guarded against. And Museveni is saying, we passed through fascism, we can't have it again. So it is not good to adore this thing. Now, if you unveil, if you lift the veil on the institute itself, I had the opportunity to ask, what is this that you are teaching? The institute actually has nothing to do with a meme. You could actually have the institute and the course content, but the idea, the import of a fascist history is what President Museveni is guarding against.
Or maybe both yourself and President Yoweri Museveni and people who believe like you do are scared of a different version of Idi Amin, some people would argue.
Say it again?
Are scared of a different image of Idi Amin.
Who?
You.
Museveni has stated clearly his concerns in the data. Why do you want to interpret more and over than what is clearly spelled out in the letter? His spelling in the letter is that we cannot go through fascism, have it adored, and institute it back and teach it. Because the presentation and the request was, they didn't even allude, the course content didn't come, he said, we want the institute. Even if you define by definition what an institute is.
Okay. And can I give some information?
No, but you see, he's misleading people who are watching this show.
He's misleading. That's why
you will have opportunity.
The content taught at the university and in all the institutions in Uganda is not determined by those institutes, but themselves. There are statutory bodies that determine the content. You cannot say that just by naming an institute Museveni, that Museveni is going to be the content. Really, please don't take this thing too simple.
Let me give this information. This is very important, and it continues from there.
I wanted to bring in a Pondo.
Actually, this information is very important for everybody to come on. First of all, as I said at the beginning, this is part of many activities to remember Idi Amin. Now, when we thought about the institute, and we conceived it as an institution of higher learning at the level of a university, at the level of Uganda Management Institute, we know that there is a government agency called the National Council for Higher Education, which controls the standards and describes the process on
of
how
tertiary education.
Of higher education, how you can establish it up to the extent of being licensed. So we wrote to Professor Mary J. N. Akwakol, Executive Director, National Council for Higher Education, on the 22nd of August 2023, requesting, one, to inform her, and also requesting to be guided until we license. And the courses to be taught in the Idi Amin Memorial Institute are here. 1, research. 2, ICT. 3, strategic studies. 4, strategic management. 5, media and strategic communication. These are courses which are to be taught there. And then she replied. First of all, she welcomed us very well. And she brought her experts, heads of department, in a meeting which we had with them. Then they gave us the guidelines. And the guidelines expressed in a letter here. I want to give all these letters. This is the letter we wrote to her. And this is the reply from the National Council for Higher Education, telling us to fulfill certain things, that write down what are you going to teach. Not only that, like the way we've listed there, who are the resource persons who are going to teach. There is a format in which we are supposed to present even that information of saying we are going to teach research, ICT, ETC. They gave us forms according to that format. Now we are organizing that information to be given. Have this letter.
Let me read the background paragraph of your letter to Professor Okwakol, Mary J.N. And he said, in the first place, would like to remind you that in the period 1971 to 1979, there was a president of Uganda called His Excellency Alhaj Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada.
Life president.
He rose to power on January 25th, 1971 through a military coup, established and led a military government for 8 years, and his government was overthrown militarily on April 11th, 1979. And at that point in time, he left Uganda for exile in Libya and then in Saudi Arabia. He died in Saudi Arabia on the 16th of August, 2003, and he was buried in Saudi Arabia. You say President Idi Amin Dada and his government made contribution to the development of Uganda, and he therefore has good legacies in different sectors, including education, health, the economy of Uganda, and politics, where President Idi Amin Dada and his government promoted, supported patriotism, nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and the liberation struggles of the economically exploited people of Uganda and the colonized, oppressed, exploited people in certain countries, not only in Africa but also in America and the Arab world. In that, His Excellency Al-Hajj Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada became one of the influential and respected leaders of Africa and the world due to the speeches he made and the work he did through the international organizations where Uganda was or became a member state during his regime. Such organizations included the Organization of African Unity, which was later renamed the AU, the United Nations, the Organization of Islamic Conference, OIC, etc. Okay. However, due to the way he rose to power and ruled Uganda militarily, there was a negative branding of his personality, regime, and people as efforts were made by his opponents to remove him from power. And after the fall of his regime, there was victimization of the people of President Idi Amin in the context of collective guilt and collective punishment, mostly in the West Nile sub-region. So, does this suggest, Caps, that what you're trying to do is sanitize the name of Idi Amin?
No, first of all, this is the background. If you are to go to the next page, and now it comes to the real prayers, what we wanted to do. Now, what we are saying here is this, that Idi Amin did good things and bad things. We recognize it there. Then we are saying he should be remembered in a balanced way. We need any institute where people will be taught these subjects which we have given, but also, you see, his exemplary way of life in certain areas which is bad, in certain areas which is good. You see, an example does not necessarily mean a good example.
Okay.
So when you teach
Thank
people...
I had not finished. Just one thing.
Hold a moment. Ofono Pondo hasn't said a word on this subject. So kindly.
Ours is, let us establish the institute and let people teach others in that institute. There's no problem.
I thought the intervention
I'll come back to you, Paula. I'll come back to you in a moment. Let's hear from Ofono Pondo on this controversy and the presidents later.
Ofono, why don't I borrow your minute?
You'll have your minute, Paula.
All of you who are here, I think I'm the only one who was ruled by Amin for all the 8 years.
I was born under Amin.
For all the 8 years. So, and I was a little understanding, so I know. The president of Uganda is the consumer of intelligence, whether it is photo or otherwise. I think there are things that he knows that Caps Fungaro may not be even saying in his letter. But you have said a bit of it. That Fungaro intends with this institute and the series of lectures mainly to try and sanitize Idi Amin, which in itself perhaps is not a bad thing. He's doing what we call revisionism. In political science, we call it revisionism. A revisionist is somebody who tries to whitewash. Now, there is no reason why Museveni should fear Amin, a dead Amin. Why? Museveni fought a living Amin who controlled the state. Museveni fought him for 8 years. So let us put aside that Museveni fears Idi Amin's image goes from coming. No. But I think he's standing on the principle, which which was saying, that we lived through the darkest period under Amin. No matter what the Fungaros, the same Jews will say. And therefore, we cannot honor that fascism, that tyranny, with an institute. That's from Museveni's point of view. He may be right, he may be wrong. I have not had the opportunity to speak to the president on this particular matter. But is it contestable that Amin, or under him, a Chief Justice was dragged out of his chambers and never to be seen again, either alive or dead? Is it contestable that the Governor Bank of Uganda, Joseph Mubiru, was dragged out of his office and never seen again. Is it contestable that Vice Chancellor of the only university then, public university, Makerere University, Frank Kalimuzo, dragged out of his house and never seen again? Is it contestable? The line of ministers, William Karema, James Ochola, many others, Alex Ojera, and so on, John Kakongi, their bodies have never been seen. You want us to remember, to say you sanitize? Remembrance, yes, because the things he has done, the things he did speak for themselves. And here I don't agree with the president when he says, let us forget. We can't forget, I mean, for the things he did, the bad things he did. So in that respect, I disagree, I differ from the president. Those like Fungaros who want to have a memorial lecture, published works, and so on, an institute to honor Amin, and they really want to honor him, they can do so, but that institute cannot erase what Amin did. And President Museveni himself cannot close the debate on this matter. First of all, he has written a book, The Mustard Seed. Isn't that a documentation on Amin and other things? He has given speeches. Are we going to throw away those speeches that President Museveni has written about Amin? No. So, I think it is really how the president put it and how we understand. And I think also in the context of rationalizing Amin, it is coming against the background. You remember the Semo Jews? They say, you also came by the power of the gun. But after coming by the power of the gun, this is not just in Uganda. What do you do next?
You steal elections.
What do you do next?
Let's give some context here.
Yes. So,
Idi Amin came to power, according to this letter by Fungaro, on the January 25th, 1971,
yes,
and was in charge for 8 years. He was overthrown on April 11, 1979.
yes.
Yoweri Museveni and the NRM came to power on January 20, February, 20,
January.
The official, just a minute. The official record suggests, or is that, came to power January 26th,
1986.
1986.
Yes.
And for 9 years.
Did not hold an election until 1996.
That's not correct.
What is correct?
What is correct is that we held elections.
This
in
one we
held elections in 1987.
Of the president?
No. We held elections in 1987. We held the election of the expanded.
We're talking about president.
Listen, no, you should. No, if you just because we had elections in 1987 for LC1 to LC5, which was an indication that you are preparing the country into a democratic dispensation. We immediately established an interim parliament, NRC by legal notice number 1 of January 29th, 1986. Subsequent, we expanded NRC in February 1989. And then we repeated LC1 to LC5 in 1992, and so on, and we have done so. That does not mean that there are no mistakes, even abuses, under this administration of Museveni. No. We re-established the functionality of courts, of parliament. Not that parliament is very good. Not that there haven't been infringement in the courts, infringement in the parliament, no. But what is the dominant aspect of the dispensation that Museveni and NRM.
Thank you. You put the questions. Let me ask this to Paula. Paula, someone has actually sent a question related to what we're discussing, and he's asking, he's a lawyer, he says, you're a lawyer on the show, what is the difference between, for For example, legal notice number 1 and a decree. What is the difference between, he says, presidential decree and an executive order? Technically, are they the same, which is executive-made law?
No, let me first educate that lawyer. Legal notice number 1 of 1986 just didn't establish the executive. It established a parliament and a democratic dispensation.
Was that a parliament?
None, yes, it is.
By the president.
In America, in America, which has the Senate? In America, who chairs the Senate?
Does it matter? So it means because it happens in America, it becomes a standard.
Every polity.
So you establish a parliament and you chair it.
Every polity structures its dispensation in accordance with its laws. In our circumstance of the time, that was an interim measure to start the introduction of a democratic dispensation. You can say it had faults, it had gaps, but there is a clear
Let's hear from Paula.
Yeah, I just want to pick from there that even after the overthrow of Amin, we have not only had the parliament, the one that Honorable Semunju is in. After the overthrow of Amin, the legislative body was called National Consultative Council, NCC, and it did exactly the role of parliament. So NRC was the same thing. So legislative body has been changing forms. It is not hard and frozen, okay? So we had it in NCC after Amin was overthrown, and we had NRC, and now we have this parliament. But one thing that I wanted to say was the implication that President Museveni has issues to do with Amin's family. No. The law that he referred to was called Emoluments of Presidents, Vice President and Prime Minister Act. This law says...
Paula, that's okay. Just a minute. That was Honorable Semuju's opinion. Let's go back.
I want the viewers to understand.
Just a minute.
He wants me to explain.
Just a minute.
No,
just a minute.
This is the reality. The Idi Amin family is not benefiting.
But the Obote family is benefiting.
What do you lose if I explain?
No. Let me ask the question. And put it to you. We talked about constitutionality. The president writes about the constitutionality of the Amini presidency. And people have raised questions about the constitutionality of the first years of President Yoweri Museveni.
Okay, I will answer, but I also want to answer what I'm answering. I will answer that one because I feel cheated. The law that was cited, the Emoluments of Presidents, Vice President and Prime Minister Act, cut off the rights only to presidents under 95 Constitution. Now, the issue came up. The president said, now, if you people in parliament have made this law and it cuts out the other people before the 95 Constitution, what do we do? The president came up with a matter called ex gratia. Like you hear Ole Gracious Mary. From the heart of the president, from the Mutima, the ex gratia money was said, give all past presidents, since this law now excludes them. It is on record that the ex gratia, Amin's family benefited, were they excluded, and they were given at flat rate. Obote, Lule, Binaisa, Amin. Instead, it was the three shared presidents who shared their money because it was...
And Tito Kello.
And Tito Kello. It was because President Nyamuchoncho, President Musoke, and President Wachaulwol were 3 in 1. They shared. But Amin's people got it.
You see,
so, that if you're talking about that law...
The family continues benefiting. That's the point I made.
Okay.
Yes.
We have continue benefiting.
But you are not said that they got ex gratia.
We have Timothy
monthly and annual benefits.
So there was no...
Why don't you move an amendment to that?
Gentlemen, hold it a moment. Hold it a moment. I have Timothy back online. We need to re-engage him. And Kano Ngojo James, thank you very much for your message. You said the president will be in Gulu tomorrow, and the people will make their own decision, and that will be known. That is in regard to the first discussion we had on the issue of Balalo. Timothy, in a country that I mean, what is the legacy of Ugandan presidents, given the way most of them have left power? And what does this project for the country?
What do you mean? What is the legacy of the president?
Of the different presidents of the country. How can their legacies be recognized, or what kind of legacies have they left? Have they bestowed on the country?
Well, the first thing for Uganda is we need to get away from this primitive assassination and succession of presidents. Every talk show, every newspaper is about president. Maybe that's the first step. But to answer your question, I don't know. We need to, of course, do much more scholarly research, in-depth research, and get away from this cartoon character image of Idi Amin. Just briefly, one of the things that makes Amin when he took power, you must know that Uganda was a very heavily Christian country in the early 1960s. It really was essentially a Christian country. And the Muslims were like the underclass. And that's why, let's say, when you read books like Henry Chambers or various accounts of Amin's time, you'll notice that the Muslim army officers in the Amin's government, Ali Fadul, Moses Ali's, Hussein Marelas, Ali Tuweli, are always presented as killers, sadistic killers, murderers, and whatnot. And then, when it comes to the Christian army officers in the same army, Major General Isaac Lumagos, Brigadier Bogeres, the Brigadier Smart Medicos, the Colonel God Wilson Tokos, somehow those are presented as reasonable voices. So this bias you see, for example, like which the NRM started up in Luero against what they call the UNL, so-called Northern Army, in the meantime was starting the population against what is called these Nubians. They call everybody from West Nile and Nubian and a Muslim, whatnot, and try to cast this image of Muslim, Nubian government murdering Christians.
Okay.
So that's the problem of the main legacy. But going back to your question, we just need to do the things Abraham has been mentioning. The museums, the study centers, all these universities, certainly Makerere should have, maybe not an entire institute, but there should be, at the Makerere, for example, Institute of Social Research, there should be desks, there should be departments, there should be sections with the memorabilia, the papers, the correspondence of these leaders, and things like that. And as I say, one of the best things can be done is just get away from this obsession with presidents and start thinking beyond presidents, especially the current ones. You didn't hear me say that.
Thank you very much, Timothy. I'm afraid. Thank you very much for making the time to be with us on the front line and for sharing your views with us. Solomon Mwibalarali is watching us. He's a lawyer. He says, my question is directed at Honorable Ibrahim Ssemujju Nganda. Honorable Nganda says Museveni hates Idi Amin. My question to Honorable Nganda is, which well-informed Ugandan would love a man who killed Uganda's creme de la creme, such as the Chief Justice, the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University, the Chief Justice of Uganda, the Archbishop of Church of Uganda, professors at Makerere, leading public civil servants, etc. Not only Museveni, but all right-thinking Ugandans rightly hate Idi Amin. To allow the building of an institute in memory of Amin would be approval of Amin's actions. Do you have a quick response to...
You see, every person who was killed should be judged the same way. And it doesn't matter whether for you have killed a vice chancellor and someone else has killed a tomato seller in Chireka. Killing means killing. You've taken someone's life unjustifiably. I want to judge Museveni, who orders the mowing down and killing of people in Kasese, in Burucho, and in Kampala here, the same way that people judge Idi Amin. There's no I'm going to stop for
Shouldn't that be judged by...
There is no way I'm going to stop for
Shouldn't that be based on evidence that he actually did make the order?
Do you have it in your mind that someone else did? That someone else ordered that you go to Kasese and butcher, including children? You think someone else did? I have no reason to stop Ofono Opondo from celebrating Mr. Museveni. Ofono Opondo has no reason to stop me from celebrating Idi Amin. Let everybody be celebrated. First of all, what is in an institute? He has told you the content. And I've told you my own inner feeling is that every history of Uganda, all the things that the Major has said and Ofono Opondo can actually become part of the content that is taught there. I have told you we visited Parliament with Ofono Opondo, and Cromworth is there. They will speak about him. His statue is in the Parliament of UK, that under this guy, there was no Parliament. But that history is preserved and is being passed on to generations.
Okay.
What is the problem with Museveni, who was teaching in Arusha, in the college, immediately Idi Amin takes over power? What is the problem with Museveni becoming one of the lecturers in the Amin Institute, and every day is telling students that Amin was a fascist, he was a very bad man? What is the problem?
Okay.
Let him file an application with the Fungaro that I want to come there and teach Idi Amin. What is the problem?
Okay, let me read a message from William Mubiru in Nabingo, who says, I believe many of us today who are talking about Idi Amin don't know much about him because the majority were not yet born and others were very young during his years in power. One thing I know for sure is that Idi Amin himself was responsible for the murder of the Archbishop Janan Luwumi in 1977. My late dad was an officer in the Uganda Army working with the Ministry of Defense. He told me everything about how the plan of murdering the Archbishop was hatched. For that reason, and many others, I think that's bad enough not to put up an institute in memory of Kijambia, the butcher of Africa. Whether the Semu Jews, Amini's admirers, like it or not, Amini's few good deeds are overshadowed by his heinous crimes. I agree with the president. Putting up such a memorial institute in Amini's honor doesn't make sense. William Mobiru. I'll take one more message here. Yes, someone says, kindly get Tim on set next time. The way he speaks obscures parts of his voice on the phone. Sorry about that, and thank you for bringing that up. We'll invite him when we can, and if he has the time to make it to the studio, we'll be glad to have him over here. Okay, we need to be running towards the end of the show, and we'll continue part of it on the Afro mobile app. Let me take a message from Richard Job Matua, who says, President Idi Amin Dada government did both bad and good things, just like any other former president of Uganda. President Yoweri Museveni has equally done both good and bad things. My position is that we must learn to respect our former leaders, but learn from their mistakes, never to repeat them. Job Matua Richard, CEO Organization for Transparency Advocacy in Uganda. Let's bring this back into studio here as we come towards the end. Paula is complaining I didn't give him adequate time to complete, and then I'll come to you. Yes, you were supposed to. Let him raise it, and then you can start, you answer at once.
Now, still on the matter that Honorable Semuji is saying, this law was created and barring presidents who served before the 1995 Constitution. Honorable Semuji says Miria Obote has continued to benefit under that. I think this is erroneous because that law, as I said, it is called a Monuments of President, Vice President and Prime Minister Act. It states clearly, for example, a right of a former president. The water bill, this currency point. Electricity bill, this currency point. Sofa set, this currency point. The vehicle, this CC. All these are consolidated and given in Ministry of Public Service. In fact, the beneficiary have this big Land Cruiser with a UQ number plate. I can assure you with certainty that Miria Obote is not getting that money from public service.
Thank you.
Now, if it was a discretionary provision for giving Miria, like any presidential appointment to anybody, ex gratia that the president had exercised, it could be. But under that law, which stipulates everything, what electricity, what, which is got from public service, I can assure you that law is not being used selectively against a means family.
Thank you.
So Miria is not
let him respond.
You see, the things which you have said about Amin, at this point in time, we are not disapproving them. What we are saying is, let us build an institute called the Idi Amin Memorial Institute. Then you bring your written things and put there for people to study. Why do you fear that? So give us the atmosphere, the enabling environment, the permission to establish the Idi Amin Memorial Institute as an academic institution of higher learning where the environment created by an institution of learning like a university for intellectuals to exercise their freedom of thought, research, and knowledge will come there. This is what we're asking for. I would like to still say that we people of West Nile, and particularly myself and the people of Uganda, my brother Honorable Semuju, there are people from Kasese, people from Eastern Uganda district who support this idea, still believe that there is room for talks. And we have proposed that we are going to meet His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, to talk on this matter. What? No, I have welcomed President Museveni to Obongi.
But he used to
I have
to
written to him, I invited him and requested him to invite on our behalf General Salva Kiir, the President of South Sudan, and he did. I know when I talk, President Museveni will listen. So give me time to speak to him. That's my request. Yes, so in short, we are requesting that don't obstruct the creation of the institute. You bring all your things which you have written.
You keep repeating we.
Yes.
We, who is we?
Very good. This question is very important that you have answered. Look at this. This is the whole concept of the Idi Amin Remembrance Project, where the prayers, the lecture, the institute is written. You'll give the detail. But these are the people organizing committee, central. There are others in Arua. I speak on behalf of this. I would like, and some of them have been sending messages.
Imam Abduhanan Haruna, Kasim Hassan, Hussein Kato, Mwajuma Lotor,
yes.
Yusuf Laku, Abdallah Dehia, Jafar Remo Amin, Fungaro Kaps Hassan, Abdallah Umar, Hanim Muhammad, who is the treasurer.
Now, there is another team from
yes, we're continuing this discussion on the Afro Mobile app for
now,
the next
another thing
minutes.
which I want to end up with here. We have not excluded people of government outside.